I froze as he hit me. I froze as he hit me. That is a testimony from JAKOB facing his father in court in an alleged abuse during his childhood. Well, I've spoken about this guy, haven't I? We all know him. I've called him a swagger, a character, a man that is on a mission in the middle distance, a Norwegian, a tough guy, a guy who could take a break during the penultimate lap in 5,000 meters and destroy the competition. I've talked highly of him on how he looks like nothing really touches him, that he's a hard nut to crack. But here he's speaking in court in Norway, in a case that has taken the world by storm. He's a double gold medalist from Olympics 2021 and the last Olympics and the world champion. He's a great guy to us, to me. We admire his demeanor, we admire his toughness. But what I'm hearing is a young child who didn't have a good life growing up with his dad, Gert. G-J-E-R-T. I don't know how to say that in Norwegian, but I'll say Gert. That is the name of the father. I have to be careful when I talk about childhood traumas and childhood violence and abuse when it comes to anybody, because you have to be careful on subject that has to do with people who are being vulnerable. Don't we have to be? That we are careful how we talk about it, knowing that we are dealing with issues that are bigger than us, deeper than us, painful than what we know. But I'm reading this statement that a man, a gold medalist, a champion in Olympics, a champion in World Championship, a world record holder in 3,000 meters, a world record holder in the mile, a man, a young man, I don't think he's 30, he's 25. Is he 25? Yeah. Who has conquered the athletic world. Yet, there's something he hasn't conquered, the monster that raised him in the father. Let me read to you some things, okay? Stay with me here. According to him, JAKOB he saw his father as a central figure, the man, the myth, the father, the bigger than life that we all have somehow. And yet, there's a dark side to every bright side. How does that work within the context or within the spheres of the family? It's quite a disturbing picture, yet it's nothing new. The brothers have come together to expose the brutality of their father. I think the most chilling thing for me is when I read the testimony of the sister who allegedly was pretty much backhanded by her father because she forgot to bring her heart monitor during one of the training sessions. That the father was yelling so loud that she could not even hear herself breathing. But in response, the father just backhanded her to oblivion, so to speak. Like she was struck and she just stood there and she could not say a word, staring at the father who had just hit her. That was just one phase of the abuse, the violence from the father, who wrote a book about how he has created a family of great runners. Somebody recommended that book to me. In fact, I was almost tempted to read the book, written by his father, almost like a biography into the life of a great coach, a great father, a great hero. I think there are 5 siblings. The sister never joined their brothers in this pursuit of excellence in athletics. I don't know if this subject will come out for me, for my viewers or for my subscribers, but I'm taking caution too when I talk about these things. Let me read to you something that the prosecutor was cross-examining the siblings, and this is what they said. I definitely think it affected the way I was able to be a child, continues Jakob. I always looked over my shoulder and thought about the possible consequences of what I did. As a teenager, I realized that the less I did, the safer I was. I became very conscious about showing emotions and ended up not doing it to protect myself. He continues, I now struggle a lot with letting people in, including us, the spectators. All we see is JAKOB INGEBRIGTSEN just destroying the world, being arrogant, having that swagger. That's what I've seen. That's what he has projected to us. But this is who he is. He says, I now struggle a lot with letting people in and trusting me. When I got a girlfriend, he says, and a wife, it was difficult to have a life together. You have to show feelings and be there for each other. Be a person who contributes to the family. It's difficult when I've lived a life with a lot of stress. He continues, I'm just reading. You have become a machine that performs when asked to. He says, as an adult, I got a lot of praise for it. I praised him. I have to say, that's all I know. But this is who really is. I am an athlete who performs under pressure in inhumane conditions. But that is because I had to do it as a child. Listen, when you read some of these things, you have to step back and pretty much let it sink in. Because I've always said this about athletes, about anybody. On stage, on big stage, Olympics, World Championships, the cameras are on you, people are expecting certain performance, certain excellence. So Jakob has done this. He's done incredible work. He's delivered on the big stage. Under pressure, he's performed incredibly beyond our imaginations. I've been a big fan of him. But he is a child talking. Not a child, a young man who has struggled to be a human being or a child growing up in these conditions around his father. Let me read to you what he says eventually. He recalled being 7 or 8 years old and getting into trouble, he says. At school, he got into trouble at school. It's relatable here, I may say. I'm just standing in the kitchen and looking down at the ground, he said. The defendant is standing over me. By the way, during these court proceedings, he has never looked into his dad's face, according to the people who are watching these court proceedings. I think it's painful for him, and I don't know, I understand it, but you know, this was the monster that was your father, the father figure who pretty much destroyed your humanity. But he calls him a defendant. I've never heard that before. The defendant is standing over me and screaming at me. He hits me several times on top of the head. I try to protect myself from violence before he takes my hands and puts them down on my side to continue hitting me in the head. I remember freezing and wanting it to be over. I was just paralyzed. It's very hard to read some of these things coming out of court. I didn't plan to do this episode at all. I think I have to respect maybe almost the privacy of these unfolding events in court. Maybe wait for the verdict. But he's an athlete that we've followed his career. So I'm just sharing this with respect and trying to let the world or my subscribers or my viewers understand that unless we engage in these conversations and live in denial that we live in a perfect world, I think we are delusional, we are in denial, and sometimes what we see is not what it is. Just because somebody is winning gold, somebody is doing very well, everything is well, or they came up to this point well. We've heard of great athletes who have shared their lives when they are in better position to share who they were as children. I mean, Serena Williams, I think Venus Williams, I don't know. Some athletes have shared how their parents, mostly fathers, how they were very hard on them. They never nurtured their childhood. Instead, they destroyed their humanity through violence, emotional abuse. And this goes to that point that Jakob seems to be telling us we need to step back when we judge anybody on big stage. I think this has reminded me to be very careful when I talk about anybody, not just athletes, but mostly people on big screen. I'm just following these unfoldings from court in Norway, and I don't think I'm going to be sharing everything. Maybe this might be the only one I'll do, because I have to respect Jakob Ingebrigtsen and the brothers and sisters who have suffered. But I'm honoring them on this episode because really, just because you have gold around your neck and you're a world champion, you are a world record holder, doesn't mean everything is okay in your heart. I like what Trevor Noah was talking about yesterday, that we cannot continue scaffolding. Scaffolding means that we are trying to make sure everything is okay as we move up the ladder of success. And we think by scaffolding, we are safe. Because scaffolding, I've been working on a construction myself, and there's a lot of scaffolding that are very iffy. They cannot pass the OSHA test. And sometimes when you're observing from a distance, you say, look at that person fixing that house, fixing that project. They look safe. But the truth be told, that sometimes, if all is said and done, scaffolding, living on a life of scaffolding, is never secure or safe. And I think when you look at people like Jakob, you look at anybody, we can do the scaffolding. We can have the medals as our scaffolding, World Championship, Olympics. We can even get married. But until we address the issues of the soul, the issues that really expose who we are in traumas, in pain, I guess we can be stuck in performance. That's all we know. I'd like to share something about his relationship with his wife, Elizabeth. He says that Jakob claims that he tried to destroy a relationship with his wife when they were in high school as sweethearts. They were branded as terrorists by their father when they said they wanted to move in together upon turning 18. How do you call a relationship terrorist? How do you even go there? I don't know what terminology you're going to use. I don't know. The more I read, the more I'm like, wow. I hope this case brings a sense of who we are really at the core, that we should not be looking at people beyond their humanity. Excellence, performance is not the definition of humanity. I think humanity should allow us to think differently and deeper about people. Because yes, we are drawn into their performance. We are drawn into their excellence on their big stage, on their discipline, or their careers. But is that who they are? Jakob Ingebrigtsen is telling us something different. He's telling us maybe this resilience we've seen in him. He could be talented. He could be a great middle distance runner. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that he could be a broken man that just grew up in this environment of abuse and violence. And as a person who has their own issues, I have my own issues, I have to really honor this young man for his courage, that he's not just a gold medalist. He could be the one person that is telling us not everything is well. Not everything we see is well, my brother. Well, Jakob Ingebrigtsen continues to be my hero, so to speak, even as we see this case unfold. That was me, JKKC, saying humanity is still out there and the juries are still trying to find out what humanity is all about.